Are you ready for, in my opinion, the sketchiest company I have covered?
I don't know that I am. I'd like to think that I'm ready. Welcome back to Sillage and Sorcery, the podcast where perfume and witchcraft mingle. I'm one of your hosts, B. Sampson from Venus Invictus, and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host,
Melissa Sifjardóttir from Sif Sniffs.
And today we are ascending into the golden resinous clouds of Frankincense.
Another biblical gift.
Another biblical resin, yes. But what is your proximity to frankincense? Have you ever burned it? Do you like the smell of it?
I have not set my house on fire with frankincense yet.
To me, it's the best one.
It's fair. I think I started getting into frankincense in 2018. All the essential oil girlies, of which I am ashamed to admit I was part of, were all putting frankincense on their face and talking about it as like this miracle anti-aging substance. And then I got a crazy rash and I was like, never again do I listen to the essential oil girlies.
That's crazy. They didn't even tell you to put it into a carrier or nothing.
Oh, no. They were just taking straight
They were just raw dogging it.
raw dogging frankincense.
Well, it makes sense that they would say that it was used for like beauty to keep your skin looking nice because, as we'll get into in a little bit, it was used in the method of embalming mummies and mummification.
Shit. Tell me about it.
So, for those of you that don't know, frankincense is one of the most revered aromatics in human history, burned in temples, carried across deserts, by camel caravans. It has been gifted to kings and queens alike. It's a bridge between the earthly and the divine for millennia. But it's also a cornerstone of modern perfumery, lending structure, radiance, and almost a celestial clarity to fragrance. So light your sensors, we're exploring its ancient roots, its precarious future, and the alchemy that makes it smell like heaven itself.
Dang, I like that line. That should be in a perfume advertisement somewhere.
So let's clarify what we're talking about. Frankincense, also known as alabinum, is an aromatic resin harvested from the trees of the Boswellia genus. Primarily Boswellia sacra, B. serrata, and B. pepperifera. Its name comes from Old French, which is frankincense, which translates to high quality incense. The resin is hand harvested, much like myrrh and opoponax, by making careful cuts in the bark, allowing the sap to bleed out and harden into tears. These nuggets are then sorted by grade, with the finest reserved for sacred rites in like Catholic Mass, and then also for perfumery. Let's talk a little bit about its history. So it wasn't just an aromatic. It was currency, it was medicine, and it was a direct line to the gods. Used in mummification to preserve bodies and to ward off decay, pharaohs burned it also to honor Ra. And I don't know if you know this, but the Emperor Nero from the Roman era infamously burned a year's worth of frankincense at his mistress's funeral, which was a flex even for Roman standards.
That's so romantic in its own way, though.
Okay, like I'm gonna burn an entire year's worth to just show everyone how much I care about you. It is a huge flex though, like damn. Hebrew Bible and the Ketoret, frankincense was a key ingredient in the sacred temple incense, as seen in Exodus 30, blended with myrrh, galbanum, and onchaya. And of course, like we said earlier, it was the Magi's gift alongside gold, myrrh, and frankincense honored Christ's divinity, a foreshadowing of his role as a priest and intercessor. So let's talk a little bit about it used in medicine and a little magic. In Persian and Chinese traditions, it was used for diabetes, ulcers, and moving stagnant blood, which is still used in traditional Chinese medicine today, which I think is just so cool.
There's also a bit of a dichotomy, like it mummifies you and keeps everything solid, but also moves stagnant blood. So good for you for being two things.
And of course, I think what most people know it from is its use in exorcism, rites, and purification. So in the Abrahamic traditions, its smoke is used to cleanse spaces, getting rid of like evil energy. Think burning the censer in like Catholic mass.
No PTSD for me being raised Catholic at all. None.
Listen, it's one of my favorite smells. So
Yeah, I loved the smell, and that was like the only worthwhile thing about going to church was smelling the incense.
here's a little bit of poetic tragedy for you. Herodotus wrote that Arabian frankincense harvesters battled winged snakes guarding the trees. This was a metaphor for how precious and perilous the resin was to obtain because where it grows, it's usually kind of these barren, desolate wastelands of rocky terrain. So it's super far away from anyone. You have to go there on foot at the time or by camel or horse to the middle of nowhere to harvest this thing. And then you have to make the trek back, hoping that you don't get killed because you had too much sun or you're dehydrated. So I just think that's very poetic and cool to like the image that it conjures in my mind, fighting these winged snakes.
Because it's so connected to purification, this idea of like the hero's journey and like what you do in order to become a better person and like all of the crap that you have to deal with in order to get to that level of purification. Everybody who was harvesting was doing the same thing.
That's a good point. Let's talk a little bit about the chemistry. What makes it smell so delicious, so good? Let's geek out on the molecules a little bit. So, the key compounds are insensyl acetate, which is the star player. This is what gives frankincense that churchy, meditative depth. Studies suggest that it literally reduces anxiety by modulating brain receptors, which I think is super cool. There is A-pinene, a fresh piney, and a septic scent. Think like crisp top note of liturgical incense. And then there is boswellic acid, which is anti-inflammatory powerhouse. So this is the reason that it's used in like medicine for arthritis and all these other things, and probably why they were like, throw it on your face, the anti-inflammatory properties. But the cool thing, which I don't think we ever really have gotten super into, but I'm gonna like touch on it a little bit. Not all frankincense smells the same. Much like lavender grown in France is going to smell completely different and have like more subtle nuances than lavender grown on Long Island, if you will. It's dependent on a lot of factors from climate, temperature, elevation, species, etc. So, frankincense generally has a sweet balsamic scent, with some types being sweeter than others. It's often known as woody and resinous. Many frankincense types have a strong woody, resinous note. Some frankincenses have more of a citrus note, and then pine like. Frankincense is known for sharing a pine like aroma between all of them, described as fresh and invigorating, which I just think is so cool. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the endangered future of frankincense.
Because, of course, we have to be a bummer.
Yeah, frankincense trees are dying, which sucks. Overharvesting is a big thing. Tapped too aggressively, trees can produce seeds with only a 16% germination rate versus 80% for untouched trees. Of course, there's habitat loss, climate change, grazing, and oddly enough, beetle infestations are decimating wild populations of this tree. Boswellia papifera source 2/3 of the world's supply, which could be seen in decline by 50% in about 20 years. Yeah. And so this is a moral dilemma, you know, for a lot of these communities in Somalia, Yemen. Frankincense is a lifeline for these folks. Without sustainable practices, we risk losing both the resin and the livelihoods it supports. Because for a lot of people, this is how they make their bread and butter. In certain communities, how they make a living. So the silver lining, though, is that ethical perfumers are partnering with harvesters to promote fair trade and regenerative tapping. So seek out brands that support these initiatives. And then last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about frankincense and modern perfumery. So why do perfumers adore this resin? It's a fixative, much like all the other resins that we've discussed. It anchors spicy, woody, and floral notes, adding luminosity without sweetness, which is important to have because if you look at something like benzoin, that has a sweetness, whereas frankincense is more of like a spicy anchor. It evokes this like secret transcendence type of vibe that I think you don't usually find with a lot of other ingredients. And I think a lot of that has to do with the associations of frankincense and how it's been portrayed in history. That's all I got.
So we get to talk about mine, which is,
From what I've heard, everybody, it's really insane and juicy and crazy. Buckle up.
yes, buckle up. What I will say, so when I started researching this particular topic, I would talk about it at fairs with people. I kept getting from everybody who used to work for this company, whatever you research, just know behind the scenes it's even worse, which is not great to hear when you're researching all of this stuff, and it's horrible. So the company and the fragrance for this week is Lush's Bond Street 1972. So for those of you who are not familiar with Bond Street 1972, it's only made in Britain, and not all of the Lush retail locations carry it. And there's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about it.
I was going to say, I've never smelled that before. I don't think I've ever even heard of it until you've just said the name of it. My old roommate used to be I believe she was like a regional manager for Lush or a store manager, something like that. But see, I did know that they did fragrances, but to what extent, I wasn't sure.
Most of their fragrances have come from their bath bombs or some of their other body care products that they just kind of like moved and made into a fragrance. Stuff like Dirty, Karma, all of those kind of originated in other products that they then created into a fragrance.
Okay.
With Bond Street 1972, what makes it a little bit different is that it's only a fragrance, and that it was created by Mark Constantine. The description for Lush's website describes it as, when you need to command a room, this brilliantly green and grassy perfume means business. Lush perfumer Mark Constantine, which I love that they phrase him as Lush perfumer, was inspired by encounters with an elegantly austere receptionist from his early days working in the hair industry, and the bold green wall of fragrance that she wore to project an aura of confidence and clarity. It was invented in 2024. Fragrantica describes it as green accord, galbanum, and incense. There's no actual description for it with frankincense, but when you look at the ingredient description after alcohol and fragrance, the third ingredient is actually olibanum resinoid, which is frankincense. So we hinted at it, but who is Mark Constantine? Who's the austere receptionist? And why are they so foundational to Lush? Mark Constantine was born in 1952 in Sutton in London. According to his own report, as well as those of childhood friends, he fails out of what is the equivalent to Americans as high school, and becomes homeless around the age of 16. His first job is an apprenticeship for a hairdresser, and it's working at the salon that he meets Mo, the austere receptionist who ends up becoming his wife. So that's kind of cute.
That is cute.
After leaving the hair salon due to sexual harassment, he segues into cosmetics creation, primarily in hair care because of his experience in working in the hair industry. He segues into a bunch of different cosmetics creations, first for Elizabeth Arden. I'm going to use he from this point forward because Mark is primarily the face of the companies that he works for and deals with, but just know, for all intents and purposes, Mo is absolutely behind the scenes. She's just not as front-facing as Mark is.
Got it.
He sends samples out to several companies. One company, Imanita Erotics The Body Shop, becomes a buyer of the hair care, and eventually ends up buying out the company in 1991 for £17 million. Mark has stated in interviews that he didn't like that he came up with a formula and was supplying the shampoo for the Body Shop, but had no rights to his own intellectual property and the formulations of any of these products. And that's something that for us as perfumers, we often come across as like, we really want to own our IP because that's really important to us. And that seems to be the biggest part of the fight between Mark Constantine and the Body Shop. With the buyout, it includes a non-compete clause. So Mark and Mo, along with Liz Ware, who also comes on the team and helps produce cosmetics, are not allowed to open up any stores of their own. So they get around this by launching Cosmetics to Go, which is a catalog service for cosmetics and body care.
Okay, that's a clever workaround.
Clever, sneaky, we respect it. However, right around Christmas, they received more orders than they had originally anticipated, which resulted in customers waiting months for their products that they had ordered and paid for, completely skipping Christmas. So nobody likes that. Nobody orders from them again, and they filed for bankruptcy in 1994.
Okay.
But, surprise, surprise, 1995 is when their non-compete clause runs out.
Well.
And 1995 is when Lush launches with Mark, Mo, and Liz at the helm.
Okay.
Just, the timing. It's one of those ones.
Yeah.
Where you're like, the timing is just a little too perfect for me. That you're declaring bankruptcy. Just, like right before your non-compete clause. They opened several locations across the UK, but the Constantines and Weir want to expand their business to other countries. This is where another Mark, this is Mark and his wife Karen Delaney Wolverton, they come in. So Mark, who I'm going to call Canadian Mark versus British Mark, who is Mark Constantine.
Got it.
Canadian Mark works for Wolverton Securities, which is a bunch of different financial assets that they are in charge of, primarily real estate. In 1996, they sign a licensing agreement that allows them to develop both retail locations and manufacturing in North America. That same year, they open up the first North American Lush location in Vancouver, British Columbia. By 1997, Australia and Croatia open up Lush locations. Brazil follows in 1999, and Ireland in the year 2000. In 2002, Lush creates an online forums for its customers. I will say North America and the UK have different forums. The UK's comes out before North America's, but pretty much the same thing was going on both forums. They were just different for different locations. Unlike other forums at the time, this forum was created and managed by the company, and it was a way for the company to interact with its customers. One of the aspects of this forum is that people like Mark Constantine, who is the face of this company, can interact with these customers, giving the impression to forum members that they're friends, right? Like, I know the CEO of this company. We're buddy-buddy, even though technically they've never met them in real life. There's also a ton of other higher-ups at Lush who are all talking on these forums to get feedback from customers and try to engage their customers in different ways. They have forum parties where people play games together online. They also get exclusive sneak peeks and access to discounted merch, all just by being part of the Lush forum. In 2003, both Marks enter into a joint venture agreement to bring Lush to the US. So unlike Lush Canada, this one is both of them together. But once again, the manufacturing for North America is all out of Canada. In 2004, there's 66 shops in the UK and 205 stores across the world. So that's less than 10 years. They've already gotten to all these countries and have all these locations.
Wow. Holy shit.
In the early 2000s, Lush comes across its first element of controversy. They launch a fragrance called Ladyboy, which later gets changed to Fantabulosa. It has notes of banana, violet, and seaweed. Ladyboy is also related to the Thai word Kathui, which is used for transgender women and effeminate gay men. You're nodding very aggressively.
One of my good Judies back from Brooklyn, she's trans. She went on like a spiritual journey moment. She went to Thailand. She had me make her a perfume called Kathui.
Okay, so you're familiar with this term.
That was the name we came up with for it. And I was like, yes, love it, love it. So I can't believe Lush was like, we'll call it Ladyboy.
Yeah. So while some have embraced the term, like your friend, not everyone has. All of like their own stuff to kind of like advertise it in stores was using bananas and often suggestively.
Well, what year was this again?
This was the early 2000s.
Sounds about right.
Lush did have a strict no advertising policy, which they did maintain for a very long time. So what they do is they have what some have referred to as stunts. I'm putting that in air quotes for those of you who are not watching on YouTube. The company calls it advocacy, and they want to foster awareness around several of the ethical ideas that the company advocates for. In 2006, they send letters to various political figures that include chocolate-covered raisins with a Lush tag on them, and it says 45 million animals are shitting themselves over REACH, REACH, which was an animal testing legislation that was happening at the time for the EU. The day that the EU was voting on REACH, they attempted to dump 2 tons of manure outside of the building, and the truck also said 45 million animals are shitting themselves over REACH. This was only the first of several stunts that the company would pull.
I live for this. Going to the politicians. I live for this stunt. I don't know if I will live for all of them. This one is cute.
You definitely won't. Okay. Yeah, I get that, right? But we also have to kind of put it in this other context, which is they don't advertise, and all of these stunts make them look great as a company and are often accompanied by articles. So it's being in public discourse as well as being on BBC evening program.
It's like a subversion way of advertising. Like, it's a way of advertising without having to advertise because you're involved in political action. You're
absolutely
still getting the spotlight, so.
You're still getting the spotlight. In 2007, this is the one that I hate the most, personally, but that could just be me. They have their Get Naked campaign. At the time, Lush came out with a bunch of products with reduced packaging, so they would have employees outside of their retail locations handing out flyers that said, "Ask me why I'm naked," wearing only their Lush apron.
So they fully had their butts out, their giblets, all their bits and bobs.
Yeah, I mean, you had the Lush apron, which covered genitalia, but that was about
not even underwear?
Not even underwear, no.
No, baby, you could not do this today in this political climate. The way with how we know men don't take care of their booty holes. No, ma'am.
And this is employees. This is the part that, like,
this is crazy.
Really physically pained me when I was, like, finding this out and talking about this with my husband, because, like, I had to fucking talk about this. Is like, these are your employees. They're all your store employees. So all of these people depend on working for Lush in order to pay their bills. So when you want to come at a company and be like, oh, well, we're doing advocacy and we're doing this and we're doing that, but you're also fucking exploiting your workers because they don't have the option of saying no.
I wonder if they signed contracts or if it was like, I want to know the details because this is insane.
Same. The company stated that they were engaging in this practice to bring awareness to the excesses of plastic packaging. But still, in one news report, an employee was naked, handing out flyers 2 children, because there's no consent involved if you're just naked in front of a store, right?
Right. There's no consent for like people having to see you pretty much naked.
Yes.
And I cannot imagine being put into that situation, being like, oh, I have to get naked if I want to keep my job. Or if maybe they were like, okay, yeah, like no one has to do it, but if you want to, you can.
But even then, the power dynamic is so fucked up, right? Like, even if they said it's voluntary, right?
Right.
Even if you say it's voluntary, there's still a power dynamic that,
Right.
like, you need to be aware of. And that's why I
100%.
really, really dislike this particular campaign.
And then, like, also, hello, you're in public. What's to stop you from being sexually assaulted?
Also a valid point. So, it gets somehow
The
better.
fuck?
This is not better,
Okay.
but, like,
Okay.
it gets somehow worse because after the Get Naked campaign, which once again, primarily is to sell their products with
Right.
reduced packaging, they have another campaign against holding individuals at Guantanamo without due process, not
Okay.
relevant to current political discourse whatsoever.
Right. Right.
With this particular aspect of their quote unquote advocacy, Lush also included an exclusive bath bomb, something that they would include for all of their campaigns moving forward. Now, the bath bomb, profits from the bath bomb did go to a nonprofit organization helping the people who were in Guantanamo and held without due process, but it was only the bath bomb. So let's say I, as a person, go into Lush. More than likely, I'm not buying this singular bath bomb and leaving, right? I'm probably going to stop in. I'm probably going to smell some other shit. And I'm going to walk out with more than just the bath bomb. So by having this bath bomb and once again, engaging in this advocacy, not saying that the cause is not unfounded, but we're subverting traditional marketing by saying that we're engaging in advocacy. In 2008, Lush hires a performance artist to hang herself by hooks at a location in order to bring awareness to the use of sharks in food, which came along with an accompanying shark fin soap. For this, something I think that we need to talk about is different cultures and their dietary habits, and what we may consider unethical might not be considered unethical to various different populations.
Correct.
That goes into another campaign that they had, which was in 2009. The North American Lush tried to bring advocacy to seal hunting, which involved Canadian Mark's wife, Karen, covering herself in red and laying down on a huge Canadian flag outside of one of their retail locations. This campaign, not at the time, but eventually got like outed on Twitter in 2017. And it sparked backlash due to Inuit people often relying on seals for their own livelihoods, not only for food, but also for fur and also economy. There was one report that said that at one point in time, a seal's fur was being sold for over $100 after campaigns that all marketed the use of seals as like clubbing baby seals. The price per fur went down to 10 cents. So for an Inuit person, that real sucks. Which any infant seals, it has been illegal to kill them in Canada since 1987.
Right.
So it didn't even apply to what they were like originally trying to advocate for, which I think is also interesting.
I just can't stand it. I can't stand that. We're so ethical and we care about the environment and animals, but like those indigenous people, fuck them and their way of life.
Correct.
That's what it's giving. That's what it's giving.
But also there's this like financial element to it too. Is like you're preaching this, oh, we're ethical, oh, we're doing all of this stuff, but it's getting you a ton of press and getting people on your doors.
Right.
Like, and I think that that is also something that I find very problematic, is it's not just, oh, we're trying to bring awareness. We're also trying to bring awareness to our brand and have people come to our stores. In 2010, a store manager dressed up as an orangutan and was strapped to a giant wheel and had knives thrown at him. Once again, fucking great for our employees. And that was to raise awareness around biofuel. How those things are connected, I don't know. And like, granted, there was like biofuel written on the wheel, but cool. Cool. I respect that.
Okay.
In the trends, Lush also segues into having a YouTube channel. Their most popular video style is how it's made, which employees show viewers how popular items from Lush are made.
Mhm.
YouTube is going to be a really big factor kind of later on, but that's where Lush kind of starts getting involved in YouTube. In 2012, a performance artist was placed in the front window of a London store location and was subjected to a number of the actions that are undergone by animals who endure cosmetics testing. Things like injections, force feeding, patch testing, all of that while in the front window of a store. Once again, garnered a lot of media coverage. There were a bunch of videos that I got to see of people in front of the store going like, and making faces about how disgusted they were. And the video of the performance is the most viewed video on Lush's YouTube channel as of us recording. There's also some displays in smaller stores at the time of employees dressed up like animals that are used in animal testing, things like rabbits, and then either right outside of the store or just within the store inside a cage. So once again, we're making our employees do stuff that's not fucking great.
This is so unhinged.
It is unhinged.
I'm like, can you imagine going to the mall and just like seeing a person in a cage and being like, hey girl, I'm here for my body wash? I feel super conflicted because on one hand, I'm like, bring activism to people and get people involved in activism because it's super important, especially right now in this political climate. But I don't know if necessarily going about it this way is the best approach, especially when you're subjecting your employees to do this work for a paycheck. Like, to do this work under capitalism feels fucking weird.
And the performative aspect of it, I think, is something I also dislike.
The marketing of it all, right? Because they're still selling products. Do they donate a lot of money, or is that coming up?
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
Most of their donating comes from selling the products and donating the profits of whatever product to that particular organization. They also have charity pot, which we're going to talk about later. In 2012, along with the release of their Gorilla perfume, which I personally think is particularly fucked up, but just keep in mind, it's the Gorilla perfume.
Okay.
They released a Lavender Hill Mob incense, which was inspired by riots in London that happened in 2011. The Lavender Hill riots happened as a result of a young black man, who was another Mark Dugan, who was killed by police. During the riots, at least 16 people were injured and 5 people died.
And do the proceeds go to like his family or a charity or?
Nope. Yep. No. For the Lavender Hill Mob incense, it did not go to any nonprofit organization. Also, people did not like that an estimated 200 million pounds worth of property was damaged as a result of the riots. So people found that Lush was particularly egregious by having incense you light on fire named Lavender Hill Mob. Not to mention, it's the Gorilla release, and it's a black man who got killed. And gorilla is a shitty term that's used against people who are black.
What?
That's hella racist. It's not even like a little bit racist where you could be like, I kind of see like how you would overlook that. No, that is super fucking racist.
From what you're telling me, that's insane. How are they still operating?
Well, I think part of this particular one is because it's in 2012. I think if they tried to do this today, people would
boycott the hell out of them. Yeah.
Yeah. There's been, even at this point in time in Lush's history, multiple boycotts for a bunch of different reasons. But yeah, this is one that, for me, felt particularly fucked up.
Yeah, that's really gross.
Wow, but so was the naked one.
Yeah.
They're kind of playing like this battle to the bottom of which one's the worst. In 2016, Lush's shampoo bar goes viral in China, but there's a problem with it going viral in China. Lush doesn't sell in China because of the regulations requiring animal testing.
Mhm.
So this resulted in people visiting Lush stores around the world from China, buying the shampoo bars in bulk, and then just taking it back to China to resell. Lush does try to kind of counteract this by putting a wooden bar in their shampoo bars that said against animal testing in both English and simplified Chinese.
Hmm.
So they tried something for that one,
That's pretty
at
cool.
least.
Yeah.
In 2017, the forums that we talked about before, they closed down. But of course, the company cited it as lack of activity on the forum. But there are bloggers and former Lush forum members who respectfully disagree. There was a controversy that happened between Mark Constantine and a member of the forum. According to the member of the forum, Mark offered work to her so that she could afford her divorce, only to be told that the job didn't exist and that she was making up the whole story. This is after she had done some work, particularly around publishing for the Lush in-house magazine. Mark wrote in the forum that a forum member was quote-unquote flirtatious and that he was only trying to help. I love that she was quote-unquote flirtatious on a public forum that everybody can read what she was writing to you, Mark. Like, there's no receipts. But okay, cool. In July 2018, Lush Australia admitted to owing more than 5,000 staff members up to $2 million in back pay. That's nothing compared to what we're going to get into.
Yeah, I knew none of this. They're doing all this crazy shit, and in certain parts of the world, they're not paying their employees. What? Oh my god. I want to scream.
In 2019, there's a lawsuit going on at the time. Mark Wolverton, or Canadian Mark, was accused of collecting excess management fees and withholding financial information from the UK side of Lush. This is not the only company that was coming after Canadian Mark. Casa Margarita also was doing the same in 2019. Lush also suggested a number of qualified female applicants to take over for a second board spot over Lush Canada. Canadian Mark would only present white male candidates for the job. And
surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
No one's surprised.
Yeah,
No one's surprised.
no one's surprised.
Oh, wow. He's a misogynist too? Great. Love that.
Oh my god. In early 2020, a deal was finalized for 200 million Canadian dollars, with Lush UK taking over the North American side of the company. So now Canadian Mark is not part of Lush at all, but he did get a 200 million Canadian dollar payout for that. 2020 is a banger year for Lush because there's some other controversies that happened in 2020. If we couldn't tell from the racism before, during the Black Lives Matter protests across the globe, Mark Constantine posted an image to Facebook of police officers getting Lush gift sets. He also captions it with, "As we are starting to open up more, support your local police officers."
Wow.
And it's the day that George Floyd protests start taking place in Minneapolis that he posts that.
What a piece of shit. He's pro-cop now.
So he's pro-cop. We kind of knew that when the whole lavender mob incense thing was going down. Charity Pot, which each year donates to a different charity,
That's been around for a while.
donated money to Women's Place UK, an organization that, while it does do a lot of work for women, also is trans exclusionary.
Fuck. Come on, Mark. Get it together.
Now for the last 2020 element. As we know, the UK does make some of its products, but so does Canada. The Canadian manufacturers went public about attempting to create a union, and of course, Lush started handing out information to factory employees against creating a union, including having mandatory meetings against forming a union. One union organization based out of Canada described Lush's efforts as the strongest anti-union campaign he had ever seen in Canada.
Cop, racist, anti-union, union buster,
Anti-trans.
turf. Yep.
Yes.
I mean, is it okay to call a fascist a fascist?
It's a fascist wrapped in I'm super ethical packaging, which
I'm super ethical and my business is sustainable.
In 2022 and 2023, Lush started giving away NFTs, which we know are horrible for the environment. I will not cover why NFTs are bad for the environment. You can figure it out. This episode is already long enough. In 2022, Lush announces that it's quitting social media following the Facebook whistleblower who said that Facebook knew that its platforms were causing harm. Mark Constantine stated in a bunch of news reports that it was the right thing to do as an ethical company. So he's still pushing this, we're an ethical company.
How fucking dare you? Dare you claim to have an ethical company when your beliefs and the things that you do directly counteract that?
Correct. So how are we getting attention? And how are we bringing people in to our stores if we don't have social media? Well, that's twofold. First, Lush has been engaging in traditional marketing and advertising, something that they swore off doing when they first started. Second is the collabs. So on the brand's website, there's currently a number of different collabs, everything from Hello Kitty to Minecraft to Wicked. They've had collabs with SpongeBob. It goes all over the place. They just have tons of collabs. Pretty much every month, there is a new Lush collab with something else. This is in contrast where all of their collaborations previously were with nonprofit organizations to raise money and awareness around various causes. Now it's just raising money for Sanrio because we're having a collab with Hello Kitty.
Now it's just cash grab. Because the gloves are off, he can do and be and show his fucking ass without any repercussions. I'm livid.
Oh yeah, I've been sitting on this because I've been doing this research for like a month, if not more. And that's why I said this episode is going to be fucking crazy when I talk about Lush. And it all goes back to Mark Constantine, who is the quote-unquote perfumer behind Bond Street 1972.
Which has frankincense as one of its ingredients. Full circle, folks.
Full circle. It's the number 3 ingredient after alcohol and fragrance.
Which means there's a lot of it in there. If you are not familiar with how fragrance labels work, you're supposed to list your ingredients by like what the most is found in the fragrance. So that being the third ingredient means that there's a high concentration of frankincense oil in there.
Typically say it's the resin. But based off of what you said about frankincense, it's even worse knowing that in 2024, so they came out with a new fragrance that includes frankincense when we know it's being over-harvested and we're going to be losing the crop of frankincense in the first place.
Yeah. Keep an eye on conservation efforts when it comes to frankincense. And I think what's interesting is that, like, when we talk about endangered and, like, extinct, we often think about, like, animals, dinosaurs, but also plants go endangered and become extinct as well. Like, we have a lot of medieval formulas for incense or, like, ritual that they're naming these plants that no longer exist. And that wasn't that long ago.
That's a bummer to end our season on, B.
Well, the good thing is that we are going to be coming back for a season 2 because we love this. We love this.
Hell yeah.
It's so much fun. And we can't wait to grow with everyone and continue and to just get better from here on out. I'm sure we'll have some new things in store. If you want to support us, feel free to check out the show notes below. Buy stuff from us. We both have merch, we have our websites, and also come see us at markets and say hi and, comment on the videos, like the video, share the video, all of the things. Well, I probably won't ever shop at Lush again.
Good. I can advocate it for this one.
Yes, I stopped shopping with them when they got rid of my favorite product back in the day. So Flying Fox, the whole series of Flying Fox, it was like jasmine and honey, and it was the best thing I've ever smelled. And then they stopped making it, and I was like, you guys suck.
For me, I will say, as a millennial with a nut allergy, they have so many products with almond oil.
Yeah.
Like every bath bomb has almond oil in it. Almost all of their body lotions and body creams and stuff like that.
Well, thanks for joining us. We adore you if you're listening to this.
We're going to miss you guys. I will say that.
We'll be back. We're going to take a few
miss you.
months off. We have a lot of markets planned. A few of them we're doing together. So come see us, come say hi. And until then, stay fragrant.
Sillage and Sorcery is produced by B. Sampson and Melissa Sifjardóttir. Research conducted by Melissa Sifjardóttir and B. Sampson. It was written by B. Sampson and Melissa Sifjardóttir. Our logo is designed by B. Sampson, and it was edited decently, maybe, I don't know, by Melissa Sifjardóttir. You can check out our merch, our links, other places to find us on www.sillageandsorcery.com. Also, since this is our last episode and we are absolutely going to miss you, follow us on Instagram, both our personal accounts for our brands, as well as the Sillage and Sorcery Instagram, because we will definitely give you guys updates on when we're coming back, if we're going to post any bonus episodes over the summer, anything like that. So, love you. Bye. This is where I get to tell you my fun Lush story. So, for those of you who don't know, I try to buy the perfume, or at least a sample of the perfume, for each episode. So at least I have an understanding of what I'm going to be talking about. So I couldn't get Bond Street 1972 because it only comes in a $100 bottle. I was like, I'm going to get some cheap ass shit. So I ordered it on Lush's website, and I get this email confirmation that I got upgraded to priority next day shipping. Didn't fucking want that. I wanted UPS to come to my house, right? They send a DoorDash from Danbury, which is solidly 45 minutes to an hour away from where I live. Then it shows up to not my address. So to not fully dox myself, I live in a section of different condo complexes, and it's 50, 100, 150, and 200, and they all have units up to, I think it's 50 or whatever. There's a lot of condo complexes kind of all in a row.
Uh-huh.
And I saw immediately from the photo, because I contacted Lush's customer service because it said it was delivered and it wasn't outside, that it was a different condo complex. So it's fuck. And they would not refund me my money, even though it got delivered to the wrong address. So, in my Temu slippers that I always wear to record any of these sessions, I went in my car because now I'm this shit's gonna get stolen, and I don't want it to get stolen.
Gotta go find
and
this.
It's in front of someone else's house with the same unit number.
Yeah.
So I drive into a condo complex. People are fucking waving at me because I live in Connecticut. So everybody just assumes, even if you don't recognize the person, that if someone's driving in your complex,
they're your neighbor.
they're probably a neighbor. So people are waving at me. I'm letting a kid go by on his bike, all of this shit. Then I go in front of the condo that had the same unit number as me, grab the bag that fully says my name on it, and then just drive out of this complex. And I'm I am on someone's fucking Ring camera. Taking a package.
They're porch pirate.
Porch pirate. Even though I paid for it with my husband's money. It's definitely mine. What the fuck?